What was the conclusion at the end of our last class?
So where we aim that we kind of just pretend like when we see the day, then we see the other day and like that we come out to one conclusion. The same when we go back with our subject, we was Daniel chapter 9. Like we see then we see the opinion, we do like that. We come to we pose the same problem like what we did when we come to the other classes and see and that's what we do right now. Just be prepared the same day.
So we have to be careful how we approach inspiration. We can't just take one rule or one strategy. We have to do multiple checks, and that is something we're not familiar with doing. When you do a study, you need to check things in multiple ways and be careful before you draw conclusions. We've seen in our class that many people have drawn conclusions prematurely, and they've been demonstrated, sometimes easily, sometimes perhaps not so easily, that they are wrong. Now, of course, there are many verses in the Bible that we as a movement have a good and clear understanding on, and we can defend them robustly, and they're pretty much set in concrete, they're firm. But there are other ones that we think we understand them, but on closer examination we see that perhaps we don't. And the reason is, it's not because we don't use methodology, it's because the way we approach things is too narrow and limited. We finished on the point of Elder Tess's presentation style as a teacher and what we observe, and we said it in perhaps in a light fashion, and we spoke about smooth words, and we can all smile about that, but what I want us to see, it's not evidence that the teaching style is improving, but it's evidence that the line is showing us that the teaching style is changing because of the subject matter and also where we are on that line. So I think that's where we finished our point. Went into Daniel chapter 8, and we saw that the theme is this controversy between God's people, or the kingdom of God, and Satan's people, or Satan's kingdom. We saw how that dynamic worked, helped us to understand how to relate to verses 9, 10, 11 and 12 without proving it. Let me rephrase that. Without explaining, we saw that the word or term daily was used differently in verses 11 and 12 for certain, and also when you went to verse 9, you could also see how that word daily, which is in that verse, although it's not written, is different to the other verses. So that opens an important principle that we all should know: the symbols can have more than one meaning. We all know that, and we can see how easy it is to make a mistake just on that simple rule. And I would argue that we had made a mistake on that rule. We're not following our rules carefully. We're human, it's understandable. There are many rules. How can we hope to remember all of them, apply them all correctly, and come out without any damage? It's not that easy to do. So we all recognise that, and yet we must be stern and hard upon ourselves to try to have that self-management. So I want to give us a bit more time to go to verse 26 and 27. We're not going to do it in our study. I don't want to say we're moving on, We need to come back, but I want us to have a bit more time in our personal devotion to reevaluate what we think verse 26 and verse 27 are teaching. So we've discussed rules. We know repeat and enlarge. We all know that there's repeat and enlarge here. We all know that the verses can be broken down into segments. We all know that. And we all know that each segment tells us a different facet of the same story. And if that's the case, then that's teaching us that the he in one portion is almost certainly not the same he in another portion. To say it simply, this is not a proof, but we have a lot of circumstantial evidence that in 26 part B, the prince that's mentioned there is probably not the prince that's mentioned in verse 25. And if that's the case, the way you approach the verse is obviously completely different. We've had a couple of days now to do our homework. What was our homework that I'd set? The second one is now Daniel chapter 9, verse 26 and 27, if you're willing to take it that way. What was the first homework that we had? So let's go to the book of Deuteronomy, the last book. Deuteronomy 22 verse 5. Before we read that, so we're in Deuteronomy 22 verse 5. Before we look at that, I want to just look at a spirit of prophecy passage. Can I speak louder? No. There's 1, 2, 3, about 7 chairs at the front. If you can't hear me, move to the front. There are 7 chairs here. If you can't hear me at the right at the back, move to the front. There's, in the first 4 rows, there's at least 10 places. People choose to sit at the back. I suggest it's not a good idea. I'm trying to speak as loud as I can. The acoustics in this room are not good. If you can't hear me and you're at the back, move forward. We're in Early Writings, page 74. Early Writings 74. The first part of the passage. September 23rd, 1850, the Lord showed me that He was going to recover His people. Talks about the charts. She then says, paragraph 2, then I saw in relation to the daily that the word sacrifice was supplied by man's wisdom, does not belong in the text. Paragraph 3, the Lord has shown me that the message of the third angel must go and be proclaimed to the scattered children of the Lord, but must not be hung on time. Next paragraph. Then I was pointed to some who are in the great error of believing it is their duty to go to Old Jerusalem and think they have a work to do before the Lord comes. Nothing to do with our study. What is this subject? Give you the section. This is 75.2. She says, then I was pointed to some who were in the great error of believing that it is their duty to go to Old Jerusalem and think they have a work to do there before the Lord comes. Sister Jackie, what's she talking about?
She's saying that there are some people in error,
Tell me what the error is.
going back to thinking that they go back to Jerusalem to do some work.
What's wrong with that? I'm not sure. It would be like me saying, I think I should go back to Africa because that's where my ancestors come from and I want to help them. What's wrong? That would be good, wouldn't it?
With them, they are not understanding with the natural, then spiritual, natural Israel, then the ancient Israel and modern Israel.
They're not understanding the relationship between the literal Jews or literal Israel and spiritual Israel. What's the problem? What is this issue? My brother? Okay, before you answer, I don't want an explanation of what she just said. I want you to tell me the title of the problem. Okay, it's fine. My sister? You're not sure? This is revision from a previous class. Brother Andrew, what's the issue? Not the third angel. She's going to deal with the third angel in the paragraph before. The Lord has shown me that the message of the third angel. That's all. She dealt with the third angel. My brother in the white and blue top. Yep. T-shirt. Just look at what you're wearing. White with blue stripes. What's this issue? We're going back, I don't know, 3 or 4 classes now.
Which is trying to tell us how we can read that fast. See the sublime work before understanding the sublime.
The answer is too long. All I want is a title. I want a title of what this issue is. So if I started reading, Jesus went from one room to another, he shut a door, sprinkled some blood. What would be the title? No, that wouldn't be the title. No. Shout out, everyone. Sanctuary. She's the subject of the sanctuary. So what is this subject here? What is this issue? It has a title to it. No, that was an example. That's not what this issue is. This issue about going to Jerusalem. She says, don't go to Jerusalem. What is this issue? My sister with the glasses, the front? Not sure? Sister Solange? My brother? Behind?
Restoration.
So why did they want to restore Jerusalem? So that's not the title, it's not the answer, but that's what they're doing. This is not people who say, let's go and evangelize. This is not evangelism. It is evangelism, but it's not just normal evangelism. This is special evangelism. What is the issue here? At the back. My brother, Benjamin. No, not Benjamin. Yeah. There you are. Sorry? It's not the ceiling. Who are the chosen? Okay, so what we're doing is we're coming up with our own titles. So this is not guesswork. There's a title that this is. There's an issue, a theological, a doctrinal belief. That's what I mean by this title that's here, and she's addressing it. My sister. Not the second advent. Before the second advent, something has to happen. Sister Elizabeth. The gospel. So it is giving of the gospel, but it's something specific. Okay, so now the people who are... Oh, no, one more, yeah.
Is it about the millennium?
Okay, so the title is... Do we give it today? In that issue, the millennium would be a good title. So you've got the right issue now. She's dealing with the millennium issue. What do we call it today? My brother?
I wanted to say that the title of the problem with those people was the geography.
Oh, so, no, it's not geography. Brother?
Dispensationalism?
It's dispensationalism. Is that what you're going to say? Okay, that's what the issue is. So, Future for America are accusing us of dispensationalism. Who does not know what dispensationalism means? It does not mean the dispensation of the priests and the Levites. It does not mean the dispensation of ploughing and the dispensation of the former rain. That's not what dispensationalism means. It doesn't mean the Jewish nation and the Christian nation. What does the term dispensationalism mean? Who does not know? Everyone knows. So I can ask everybody and they'll get the right answer. Yes? My brother in the red shirt. You didn't put your hand up. Come on. Let's be interactive. I really want to know who doesn't understand what this issue is. Okay, so you're not going to participate, so we'll be quiet and we won't have a class. In Australia last year, November, I think, so like 1st to the 9th, my series of presentations were all dealing with this subject of dispensationalism. Who watched that series? Oh, come on, look, you all watched that series, then you don't know what the issue is. Okay, who are the two famous men? Darby and Schofield. So, Darby produces his own Bible version, in fact. Schofield produces a cross-referencing system. I don't know if it's good or bad, I've never used it. People say it's great. He doesn't have his own Bible version. So, we'll go with Darby. He's about 100 years before Schofield. And when he approaches the Old Testament, he says this. After the captivity, because it's all about the captivity, what did God promise? Restoration. He said, I will restore the people. And did they ever get restored? No. So what he does, he sees that the captivity only occurs at the level of the head here. Is that what we taught this morning? No, we said they're in captivity all the way through, didn't we? Which helps us to understand Daniel 8 verse 9. The glorious land is what? It's Greece. That's what we said, because they're in captivity still. Yes? So he says, no, it doesn't work that way. He says they failed in their mission, so they're in captivity, but they were meant to be released. So he disagrees with what? The 2520. Disagrees with 2520, these 2,500 years of captivity. He says the captivity would have ended after Babylon, and then they would have been restored. Heaven would have been here on earth. This truly would have been the glorious land. It didn't work. So what happens? They get to the end, and what God's going to do is change tactics, and He's going to introduce the Christian era or the Christian religion. or Christianity. Christianity is an amalgamation of this Jewish and Gentile people, if I can say it that way. So Paul will tell you that we are no longer literal Israel, we're spiritual Israel. So we go through 2,000 years of all of this Christianity, and what has God forgotten about? He's forgotten the promise that he made to the Jews. The Jews are still around, miraculously, it's a miracle. And so what they believe is that after the sorting out or dealing with the Christians, once all that is done, what will God do? Turn his attention to the forgotten problem, which is the Jewish nation. Because who are God's people? The Jewish people or the Christian church? The Jews. There's no such thing as spiritual Israel in its proper term, or we're spiritual Jews. We're just Gentiles, and they're God's people. They've always been God's people. They've been in rebellion. Once we get sorted, then it will deal with them. So, this is what this issue is about here, where they're going to literal Jerusalem because they need to convert the Jews before Christ comes. That's what that issue is. So, that's not why we went here, but what I want us to see, the first paragraph, September the 23rd, 1850, God has spoken about a gathering, spoken about the 1843 chart, and then she says, the daily. What's the daily got to do with her first paragraph? I'm going to suggest nothing. Then the third paragraph talks about the third angel's message, and what's that got to do with this issue? I'm going to say nothing. And then the next one, she talks about going to Jerusalem, and what's that got to do with anything? And I'm going to say nothing. So she's dealing with independent thoughts. Obviously all scripture is profitable for us, so all of them can have some meaning to us. So in that sense there is a relationship, but these are just 3 or 4 issues that she just bullet points. Bullet point 1, 2, 3 and 4. She said don't do this, do that, don't do this, go there. Separate issues. Why do I make that point? I make that point because we're in Deuteronomy 22 verse 5. And if we get verse 5 wrong, does that mean we don't understand what verse 4 is saying? Because verse 4 is next to verse 5. If you can't understand verse 5, the theory is you can't understand verse 4. And obviously we can't understand verse 5. Sorry, verse 6. Can't understand verse 6 because we don't understand verse 5. So what's the problem with that logic?
Because just like the idea of anointings are detached from each other in these verses, and detached from each other is the idea of anointings.
There's a connection because it says don't, or don't do something, do something. So there's a connection of because they're instructions, but they're not connected points. So you can get one wrong and get the other one right. Are we okay with that? So let's put that argument to bed, because people are going to use that argument. If you can't figure out verse 5, that means you can't figure out verse 6 or 4 or 9 or any other verses. So we know that just doesn't make sense. There are some issues that are easy to understand and some issues that are not easy to understand. There are some issues that become dispensational and others that are not. Now I'm using the word dispensational to mean dispensations. There are some things that change and there are some things that don't change. Are we okay with that? Okay, so I'm addressing an issue that's in our movement that says if you don't understand one verse, that means you don't understand anything. That can't be true. So we might not understand verse 5, but we could easily understand verse 6. We understand verse 22. If a man be found lying with a woman married to a husband, which is adultery, then they both shall die. You okay with that? You will understand that. It says don't commit adultery, and there's punishment if you do. Any issues with that? No. Is there some dispensational issues that arise here? Certainly are. Elder Tess brought this perspective up, which was what? They live under a theocracy. We now live under, I don't know what you want to call it, secularism. We live under a godless government, so you can't apply some of the rules here. The principle of adultery doesn't change. Does the punishment change? For sure the punishment changes. So now you can't go around killing people when things are wrong. Verse 5. The woman shall not wear that which pertaineth unto a man, neither shall a man put on a woman's garment, for all that do so are abomination unto the Lord thy God. How do we understand what this verse is teaching? Sister Jackie, what's this verse saying? Okay, I don't know what pertaineth means, so let's use English. So, a woman cannot wear, so a woman can't wear the clothes that belongs to a man. Is that what that verse means to you?
Yes.
So, if it's raining, you can't borrow your husband's, I don't know if you're married or not, or your brother's jacket. Does that mean? Does it mean that? Sorry? You gave us the plain reading. Okay? So the plain reading is women can't wear men's clothes and men can't wear women's clothes. We all agree with that plain reading? Okay? So now I want to ask what it means. Does it mean that you can't wear, so I don't know if you've definitely got a father. Can you wear your father's jacket if it's raining? Or borrow one of our jackets? Does it mean that? No? Yeah, was that no? Because she said it doesn't mean that. So if there's an unusual situation, you can wear men's clothing. Is that what you said? It would depend on what unusual means, what unusual circumstances. Yeah? So we get caught in the rain and you come to my house and you're drenched, and I have a pair of jogging bottoms. Is that what you call them here? Yeah? And I say, just put those on and we'll put your clothes in the dryer. Could you do that? Or would you say it's breaking the rule? Would you say it's abomination to borrow one of my jogging pants? It's not an abomination. Everybody agree with what she said? Her understanding of what this verse means thus far. God says women shouldn't wear men's clothes, but if it's raining, she'd borrow my jacket. And if you said I can't borrow your jacket, we're not allowed to do that, or we met before. And I said, now you're wet, now wear my trousers until your one's dry. She says yes to both of those things. It's okay, it's not a problem. Who disagrees with that? Who thinks God would say, what an abomination that she was borrowing my jogging bottoms while her was drying? That this verse says you're not allowed to do that. Who would disagree with her understanding? You disagree with that?
I don't think I am.
So you don't agree with what she said. She said it's okay to wear my trousers. You're saying you disagree with that.
From this verse, we don't have plain methodology. I don't think anybody says.
Okay, so it's raining, and we'll take this from a sexist perspective. Your sister's got a pink umbrella because it pertaineth unto a woman. She says, you can borrow my umbrella. You'd say, I'm not allowed to because that pertaineth to a woman. It's pink. Is that right?
I think this verse is specifically talking about, if you read all of it, is in English or garments.
Not umbrellas.
I cannot keep that in this verse.
So you don't like me extending it beyond garment.
But you can do that,
And?
but I'm saying I don't get that from this verse.
Okay. What about, I don't know what you call it, gumboots or Wellingtons here? Yeah? Would you borrow your sister's gumboots and wreck your Sabbath shoes?
I believe that these verses are abomination.
You'd think it's abomination, so you don't agree with Sister Jackie. She said, I just wear them. That's not what God meant.
No, I'm saying if we are approaching what these verses are without applying methodology,
Okay, so I just want to do it in various steps. Just want to know how you would think what the intention of this was. Just at this surface reading, do you think it would mean that God meant that if it's raining, you can't wear a woman's jacket to keep dry? You think that's what God's intention was? Brother?
Yeah, I disagree with her because
With whom?
Sister Jackie.
Do you agree with William?
Yeah, I agree with him. If you see the plain reading of the word here, it is black and white that men should not wear that which pertains to women. Or anything really to women. So in the plain reading, it's very clear that you cannot put men clothing or women clothing if you are men.
Okay.
Yeah, and the issue of umbrella, I don't think whether you could wear umbrella. And also, because umbrella is not something we cannot be wear, so I hope you talk about it.
So you go to a shop and there's a sale on, and they've got all these clothes and they just dumped them into a pile, and they're vests. Do you call them vests? The things that you put under your shirts? And they're all white vests. There's a whole pile of them, and you say, I need a vest, and you buy it, and you get your size and you put it on, and when you get home you wear it for a week, and you look at it and you say, oh, it's a lady's vest, so do you have to repent now and never wear the vest again because it's an abomination?
By that time, it could have been an abomination because it belonged to women.
So you'd think it would be an abomination to continue to wear that vest?
Yeah.
What about if it didn't say men or women? So is unisex vest abomination?
If they are, I don't know if they are there, but according to what I know so far, all clothes are either for men or women.
Yeah, but you know that's not true. You know it's not true. You can get a vest or jogging trousers, pants. They're unisex. They can fit both. Is that an abomination to have clothes that both people can wear?
Yeah, but what I know so far, I don't know if there is something which is for both. So I only know it could either be for women or for men.
No, but if I said to you, if there was a vest that said universal,
That is conditional.
would it be abomination to wear that?
According to, let me say, I could not give you the answer because I didn't get it, but
Tell me what you think.
conditional question.
I want to ask you what you think. Would you buy universal clothing?
According to the time of Moses, I think,
You live in the 21st century.
but we are reading the best with plain reading, so we're talking about the time of Moses.
I'm asking, how would you interpret that verse for you? Would you go to the shops now and buy a universal piece of clothing, a vest? It says, men or women, it's okay. You'd be okay to wear that?
If we are to follow the plain reading, I will not buy it.
You wouldn't buy that. If it said men, you'd buy it. If it said women, you wouldn't buy it. So you've got three things identical. And one said men, one said women, and one said universal, and they're exactly the same. You'd think it's an abomination to wear two of them because it has a label on it.
Yeah, according to the reading, we have them.
Is that how you read that verse?
That's how I read it, yes.
Sister Elizabeth. They're just what? Two scenarios. You got to speak loud.
Like she comes to your place when she's wet. You give her trousers and shirt.
So I give her a pair of trousers because it's wet.
Yeah, one scenario is she may dry her clothes and keep indoors till clothes are dry and she put her clothes and go back. And the other is she'll go with your clothes, go in the streets with them, keep her clothes until the wash it is in the street. To me, I think the first scenario is the example. The second, she comes in the streets with your clothes. Because the idea was it wanted to be.
So the first scenario is, in the secrecy of our home, my home, she can wear the trousers. But if I said, oh, I'll drop you off home, she says, I can't do that. I can only wear the trousers in secret, not in public. Because what would happen if it went in public? Sorry?
That's how the mass works.
What, you can't do it in public, but you can do it in private.
What if I think to you doesn't belong?
Sure, I get that, but why can't she take those trousers, wear them for the week, and say, when you get home, return them. She says, I'll wash them and I'll return them. But you're saying she's not allowed to wear them.
We're talking about condition. That would be the person would be doing it. Because if you can put your clothes, then this person is referring. But we're talking about condition. It's a condition that you put all our clothes are wet, she'll put shoes. But walking the streets, no one would know that she's put clothes because of the condition.
I don't have a dryer. It's going to take, and it's rainy season, it'll take 2 days for the clothes to dry. So she has to live at my house now. She can't just go.
Now you drop her home, no one will know what's.
So no one can see. So it's the abomination in the sight of humanity, not in the sight of God. Because now you're worried what people will think. Not worried what God thinks. Because God can see in my home just as much as He can see in my car, just as much as He can see in the street. So God knows what's happening. He knows it's an abomination all the way through. But human beings can't. So you're worried what people think.
Because there are two options. You either go home with clothes, or you give us something to put on, so there are two options.
So the two options are either she wears men's clothes or she doesn't. It doesn't matter where she wears them. It doesn't matter where she wears them, in the street or in my home, does it?
It would matter because
Who does it matter to?
the people
To the people.
in the streets, the people that you're here.
Yeah, so this verse is dealing, saying it's abomination for women to wear men's clothes in public, but not in private.
No,
That's what you've said.
it's like this.
Wait, before you say how it is, isn't that what you just told me?
Now,
You did? You didn't or you did?
It has for a reason at your place, right? It's just you just want to change, you have to put in your place. That's what I would put as a thing.
I know you would, but I gave a dynamic where you find it acceptable because it's an unusual situation. But you only find it acceptable in private. You take the same situation and you say, she can't step out of my house because we can't make it public. So now you're taking this principle that you can do things privately that you can't do publicly. And in this specific context, women can wear men's clothes privately, but they can't wear men's clothes publicly. And I gave a certain situation, but still the principle is you can do it privately but not publicly. So in my house, God says it's not an abomination, but as soon as she steps out, her clothes aren't dry. Thank you. It's not an abomination. Sorry, it is abomination suddenly.
That's really different.
Okay, just as long as we know that we differ. We being you and Sister Jackie, not you and me. I haven't given you my position, I'm using her position. You disagree with Sister Jackie.
No.
She said she'd wear it everywhere.
No,
You-
you say you should put it on which happens.
Is she? Would you wear the trousers going back out? I said, I'll give you a lift home. Would you wear the trousers then? Ah, now they feign ignorance. Okay, who doesn't understand what I'm talking about? I want to set up a dynamic where we'd all think it's unusual. Sister Jackie says, raining is unusual. She got wet. I said, put my trousers on. She says, of course I will. I said, I'll put it in the dryer so it becomes, she says, oh, it's only 20 minutes. God won't, I'll only be an abomination for 20 minutes. It's okay. She didn't really think that. She said, it's not an abomination because it's an emergency. Now I'm saying I don't have a dryer. I've only got one bedroom house and she can't sleep in my house with me, so she has to go back home. Don't have a car, she has to walk. People will see her in my trousers. It was an abomination when she put my trousers on in the house, and now I'm saying you need to go. She's got two choices. Naked or my trousers. The naked one is obviously an abomination. So is it an abomination for you to walk out and everybody sees you wearing my trousers? Because it wasn't an abomination when they couldn't see.
But the Bible says it's an abomination because God understands no people. So to my understanding, I know.
So as I said, I'm sure that was her position. Position is, it's not an abomination in the house, it's not an abomination in the street, because the abomination is with God, not with man. And you're saying it's an abomination on the street but not in the house.
Yeah, I'll do the same with if it's this universal clothes that
It's not universal. It's not universal, they're my clothes.
yeah, okay, you give a condition, right? It's a condition. There's no starting block to your platform. And you only have one bedroom house, no dryer. No, okay.
And you wouldn't be an abomination? So you would. Because she says she's not an abomination and you say you are.
I'm not, but what I do is what I do.
Okay, I'll rephrase it then. What she did is not an abomination, and what you did is an abomination. That's how you've said it.
How would the public think?
She doesn't care, and you do. You said it's an abomination in that person's eyes, and she said the verse said it's an abomination in God's eyes. She's worried about what God says, and you're saying it's about man, human.
Because if I just put a men's tag or a men's tag, I don't know if it's really because I don't think it doesn't work out. That's a
I've done an imaginary story, and therefore it becomes invalid. I've never seen humans turn into sheep, and I've never seen Jesus turn into a shepherd. So the shepherd who loses the one sheep is an invalid story when you want to make a spiritual application. I can be pretty sure that with 7 billion people over 6,000 years, it rained one day and a woman wore someone's trousers, a man's trousers. I don't think it's a crazy example. I think it's a real life, genuine story that not only could happen, has happened repeatedly. I've seen it in the movies, so it must be true. Okay, someone else. How are you approaching this verse? Is your hand up? No? Yes? Is that okay?
I think if we approach the verse, there are two ways that we approach it.
Two ways to approach a verse: the right way and the right way.
Either we consider the mind of the writer, or we consider our mind. So, like what you were asking, either can you wear a woman, can a woman wear? Even in this, in the condition given, is not an abomination. Something to do with common sin is not an abomination. It's a condition making you do that.
How do you know you have come to the correct conclusion that it's okay?
Because condition forces you to do that. Without condition, you cannot do that.
How do you know what the original intent was? That when Moses wrote it, he said, of course, if it rains, it's okay.
I'm not saying this is the intent, but I would say if I'm addressing the question that you was asking the sister and the brother, then I would agree that it's not an abomination to do that. But if we consider the mind of the writer...
Well, that's what I just said to do. How do you know what's in Moses' mind when he wrote this? How do you know he said in his mind, we all know if an emergency happens, she can. How do you know he didn't mean that?
Because of the dispensation that we will see.
Because of the...
Dispensation.
So in that dispensation, you don't have emergencies.
The emergencies may not allow you to do so.
Okay, so in that dispensation, if there's an emergency, you can't fix the problem. That's that dispensational thought process. Yeah? So, in that dispensation, if an emergency happens to someone's cow, can you help the cow? You just said in emergencies you can't. So, it's the Sabbath. So in that dispensation, are you allowed to help the cow on the Sabbath? You just said in that dispensation emergencies don't override the rule. The rule says do no work, do no labour, nothing connected with work. And now you're saying cows, I'm going to extend what you're saying, cows are to do with work, they're not pets. So you should not be helping the cow in an emergency on the Sabbath. That's how you approach that. You said in that dispensation emergencies don't work, and now you've agreed that they do work. So you know in the mind of Moses, he already has in his mind the idea that if it's an emergency, you can break the rule. Do you agree with that? Okay, so his mind is the same mind as you have. So you said you can approach it two ways, and now you're saying actually you're approaching it the same way.
The thing that I want to bring up...
Do you agree with everything that we've just said, those steps? Okay, so now you have to, can't just carry on, now you have to come up with a new position.
The reason I say that is that when Moses wrote these, he's writing that the reason women should not wear men garment, or men cannot wear, is that the woman would look like a man and the man would look like a woman. And that is an abomination. He's not wearing clothes, that is an abomination. But this woman may look like a man and a man look like...
What makes a woman look like a man?
Putting on his garment.
Okay, and you said it's okay today in an emergency, but it's not okay then in an emergency. Or you agree now it's okay then as well?
Yeah, if there is an emergency like that.
So it's okay for us, it's okay for them. We agree. I mean you and I agree that that's what you're saying. Yeah? So the mind of Moses says, you go to someone's house, it's raining, he says, borrow my trousers, and you say, that's fine, I'll wear them. God said, that's good, you're not an abomination. That's what Moses means. Yep? Anyone else? Oh, at the back. I can't hear anything you're saying.
What I can see is we have the law. We have this thing. We have the law and the instruction.
We have the law and instruction.
Yeah. So we have the law and the
Sorry?
Instructor.
We have the law and the instructor. The teacher. We have the law and the teacher.
So to understand what Moses is saying is that this is the law. What is written is law. But there is someone who is to lead us or who is to instruct us what is in the law.
So there's a law and there's a teacher. In that story, who's the teacher? In this situation.
What is the law?
Sorry?
What is the law?
You have the law. I'm saying in that situation, who was the teacher?
The teacher is not given in the verse.
Okay.
Yes.
So we have the law.
So for me to come into right conclusion about the verse is to know that then there were instructors who could lead people into the scriptures and tell people, hey, when emergency comes, how do they treat it? Okay? The law is left there, and then the teachers will instruct people when emergency comes, how do they treat this?
So there are some teachers there who are going to say, when the emergency happens, this is how you deal with it.
Yeah.
Because the people can't work it out themselves.
Like today.
So then, the people can't work it out themselves. Why can't the people work it out themselves? Why do they need the teacher to work it out for them?
There has to be a teacher that could lead people to help them to work out for themselves. Like we do today.
And what qualified that person to be a teacher? To understand the verse better than the person?
Like today, we have teachers, right? So what qualifies, like yourself, you're standing there, what qualifies you to be?
You tell. I've asked. That's my question. You tell me the answer to that.
So what I think qualifies people to be teachers today is what qualifies them.
Which is? Which is what?
Yes, we are going to be teachers, right? When we go out.
Which is what?
Which is why we are here.
So what qualifies you to be a teacher?
We are being instructed to go and teach. So we already know that we are teachers. When we go outside, we are teachers. So the teacher is instructed by God to go and teach. And then you come and instruct people who are going to be teachers. So it is a matter of instruction. You are being instructed to do that.
Who's the original teacher?
Yeah?
Who was the original one that was instructed by God?
Moses.
So Moses. So Moses then teaches all the judges, and the judges say, Moses taught us, this is what it means. Okay? Anyone else? That sounds reasonable. My brother, didn't you?
Okay, what I'm seeing here is that I'm going to speak like him. We have two different things.
Speak like who?
Like him. But you are
Him.
Yeah.
My brother, him.
Yeah. So I'm seeing there's difference between a condition that is going to be experienced later by the people who are instructed by through the law and the intents of the law. God does not teach people by conditions. So conditions are not included in the law, but conditions now are going to be experienced by those who are governed by that law, and they are to be judged by the judge who is present in that particular time. So when the law is written, like the plain reading of it, it is condemnable to do which is going against the law. But now the judge has now asked to see the situation that forced you to do that, but not the law itself. Law doesn't speak, doesn't know any conditions, but it works out that which is indicated there. So I'm saying, in the plain reading, it is abomination to do anything that is going against the law. But now you can be justified by the judge, that's well, but you can never be justified by the law, because what you are doing is not indicated in the law.
Okay?
So stop there, that you cannot wear what pertains to the woman. And that is abomination. Full stop.
So if you want to wear a blouse,
Yeah.
a woman's top, all you need to do is ask me, because I'm a judge, and you're going to say, is it okay? I say, tell me the situation. And you say, this is a situation. I say, it's fine.
No.
That's exactly what you just said.
No, what I'm saying is that I have to work out with my conscience.
Who was the judge in that story when you just said the judge? You said you got the law and you got the judge.
You are a judge of yourself, and another person can also be a judge.
Okay, so I can be a judge. So I'm saying, you ask me, I give you my judgment. So now you're free. You can wear women's blouse because it's an emergency.
After I've already worked out mine. Because I
If
can't.
you already worked it out yourself, why are you asking me?
Because I'm the one who is knowing my conditions. Do you know?
Yes.
Do you know my conditions?
Yes. You told me them.
I checked them. But before I did that, you did not know them.
Then why are you asking me? Work it out yourself if you can do it yourself. You don't need a judge. We're all judges then.
Okay, what I meant, maybe you have not understood me. You have the law, you have indicated the law. And this law, it is you to exercise them. And I'm here, the person who is being governed by the law. So if the law says don't kill, and have a condition that is forcing me to kill, I have to kill, and now the law will hold me guilty because I've broken it, isn't it? But now you, the judge of the law, you have to hold me accountable because I've gone under the law.
That's fine. So
Against the law. Now you're going to examine the condition. It is you who is knowing me. Now you're going to investigate.
So
why did you do this and that?
who decides if you're an abomination, you or me?
Me, myself,
You just said I did.
I have to decide, and you have to decide yours. Because I cannot go
Whose decision is better, yours or mine?
yours.
Okay, so I'm the judge, you're not the judge.
But for me to do that, I have to justify myself first because I can't do something.
You can't justify yourself. The only person that can justify is a judge. I can justify, you can't.
Do you think I can do something wrong? When I know that it is wrong, I cannot do it.
Yes, I do. I think plenty of people do things that are wrong that they know is wrong. It's just what happens is they self-justify because they think that they can be a judge. In reality, they're not judges. They're fake. So, if you're a judge, then I don't have anything to do with it. But if I am a judge, you can't be. You can't have two judges. Unless you're going to say you're a lower judge and I'm a higher judge, like the Supreme Court judge. You could say that for sure.
Anyway, it is wrong to use that term. But what I'm saying,
No, but it's a parable. We're sensible.
it is wrong to use that term. But what I'm meaning is that before you do something or before you wear that which pertains to women while you are a man, you have to first agree with your conscience that what I'm going to do is not bad. So wearing it is not sin. It's
Sure.
what the law says.
Sure, but your decision is irrelevant. Doesn't make any difference. It's my decision that's the relevant one.
Yeah.
That's what I said. So we agree. I think I understand what you're saying. My sister, what's this verse saying to you? Sorry?
What can I say?
I tell you what you should say. You didn't know what I said. Open your heart. Open your heart to us and tell us what you think this verse means to you.
I'm saying it's an abomination.
It's an abomination for a woman to wear men's clothes. That's how you see that. Yeah? So the situations that we gave about those emergencies, do you think they're okay? Yeah, so in an emergency you'd be okay.
Yes.
Okay, but if it's not an emergency, you wouldn't. So this emergency sounded funny perhaps to you, but hopefully you all agree. Now, those trousers were my trousers, men's trousers. My sister wore them, so that's all fine. Now, are trousers innately, inherently men's clothing? So if you see a man and you had a range of clothes, you say men should always be wearing trousers. And if you saw a woman and you say let's dress her like a doll, you'd always put dresses or skirts on her. So if you had a range of clothes and you had a boy doll and a girl doll, would we know how to dress those dolls? Because everyone knows that men wear trousers and women wear skirts. Is that how you see this when you talk about abomination? Yeah.
Now this verse is a bit
Tricky. Okay.
because they say powders, but they are for women, made for women.
Okay, so that's the tricky bit. So when I said, "Here, my sister, you can wear these trousers," because I can't wear them, they're yours. I said, "No, they're not. They're my sister's. Look, it says made for women. They just look like men's trousers." So when we complain about or talk about this issue, does the label make a difference where it says made for women or made for men? Gave an example of the vest. Do we agree everyone can wear vests? Yeah? So if it says made for women or made for men, from the same factory, with the same cut, same colour, everything's the same, just the label's different. Is that what we mean when we say men and women can't wear the same clothes? Or do we say a sister can't wear, maybe she wouldn't want to, wear my vest because she needed it, because it says for men. What's the issue? Is the functionality of the garment, because everyone wears vests, or is it to do with the label? It says men and women. What's the issue? The labelling of it or the actual clothes itself? Which one for you?
According to what is written in the best is the labeling.
The labelling.
Yeah, this one for men and this one for women.
So,
Even if they are the same, and this one is named for women and that one is named after men, then you could wear the same.
so the shirt I'm wearing, is it for men or women?
That's for men.
How do you know? You can't read the label.
I already have a preconceived idea.
Preconceived idea. So you don't know? Okay. So it's only abomination for the person who knows it, like God and myself. Why would it be an abomination if it's the label?
Yeah, I think I did not clearly read in the mind of Moses, but what he was trying to do there is to put distinction. Because during his time, I think we read in history that all the crosses were almost the same. Only that there was different at the border of the garment. But what he was trying to put there is the distinction. So I could not probably give the correct answer that the main reason that he brought all these things is this. But the answer I could give there is to bring distinction between women and men.
So the women wear pink borders and the men wear blue borders. Yeah? You know they don't do that. Is that what Moses wants? He says all the men have to wear blue and all the women have to wear pink. Is that?
I'm not getting your question right, but what I'm just saying there is that what was in the mind of Moses is to put distinction. Though they are the same clothes, then you should put a little bit of distinction on a name that is going to belong to women and doesn't belong to men.
Okay. My brother. Why? Why does Moses care what a man wears? What difference does it make if I wore a woman's vest? What difference does it make? According to?
The design of the clothes.
No, I get that. I'm saying, what difference does it make? Does it make you less of a man? Does it turn women into men? What's the problem if a woman wears my jacket or my shoes? Or what's the problem with a woman wearing men's clothing? Why is it bad?
Maybe it's just doing separation between the ladies and the men.
Why? So when you marry and you wake up, you say, I thought you was a woman, and you turn out to be a man, and I didn't realise because you had trousers. You don't mean that, I presume. Do we not know the difference between a woman and a man? We do. Yeah? So what's the problem with women wearing men's clothes? Why is it so bad?
I think William also said, that time William described that we know the men were invaded into the service of God, so maybe like the children of Levi, the priest, so they were just putting differences about the serving.
Oh, so all this is about the priests and the Levites. They have to wear something different. So a woman cannot wear priest clothing. That's what this means?
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that she can't wear the policeman's clothes or the farmer man's clothes.
According to my view.
So she can wear all men's clothing except the priest's ones.
This would,
You believed that before, or you just thought about that now?
I thought about
Now or before? But in this discussion, I mean now.
no, I haven't.
Oh, you had the thought before. So you're saying that this is saying that women are not allowed to wear priest's clothes. Okay? What about if you were born in the tribe of Judah and you're a man? Then the verse would say, a man shall not wear the garments of a man. Is that what it say?
No, even within a man, the priesthood, they have their special clothes. Not
Yeah, so it says a woman, the way you read the verse, a woman shall not wear that which pertaineth unto the priest. It says man. Then you're going to have a version that says, the man shall not wear that which pertaineth unto the priest. It doesn't say priest, it says man. So you're going to say, women can't wear men's clothes, and men can't wear men's clothes. Because you've changed the word men into priest. Is that reasonable? Is it reasonable? After some discussion. Because I've just changed women into men. And so the verse would read, men can't wear men's clothes.
There's many other verses who agree with this one. We talk about the same issues. And in the Old Testament here, Moses was the one who was given instruction concerning the service of the Lord. So here, that's why I come up with this suggestion.
In the service of the Lord, maybe some people who know their Bibles really well be able to find the passage. He says, we're going to make a special perfume, and no one, man nor woman, is allowed to replicate that perfume in your own homes. It's unique. It gives you the ingredients list, and you can only make that perfume for use in the sanctuary. Does everybody know that? Maybe someone can find that passage. So on that one it says no one. It's clear, it doesn't make it male or female. And then he talks about the clothing of the priests, and he'll tell you it's a special type of clothing and no one's allowed to replicate that. So I can't think that this verse is talking about women can't wear priest clothes. I don't think it's relating to that. Sister Beatrice, how do you read this verse?
Okay, the way I see it is that these people, they were putting on the same clothes. Men and women.
When you say the way you see it, that's not in the verse. Or in the verse, you're saying. You read into the verse, the men and women are wearing the same clothes.
So they were putting on the same clothes.
Okay?
But something developed in the camp.
Something develops in the camp,
Yes. Which turned out to be an abomination.
which the thing that turns out to be abomination is they're wearing the same clothes. Oh no, they're wearing the same clothes, that's good. Something happens in the camp, which is an abomination, and then Moses says,
Women should not wear men's clothes. Women should not wear that pertains to a man.
because of this abominable thing that happened in the camp. So they're all wearing the same clothes. God is happy. No problem. Yeah? After this abomination, then God says, now you need to change. Do the clothes look different now? Afterwards. So how can a woman how can a daughter stop wearing or be prevented from wearing her dad's clothes? What's going to stop her from doing that? How can she know the difference?
They had to change their style.
So now we have to change the style. So the men are going to have a different style and the women are going to have a different style. And before they had the same style. It was universal clothing before and now it's different. And what was the abomination that occurred? Okay, do you know that there was an abomination that occurred? Or you're just guessing?
So according to the statement here, it shows that they were putting on the same clothes. But maybe something happened and then they were stopped.
Okay, so we're not certain that anything happened, but something happened, and it must have been something bad, and now God says you can't wear the same clothes. Can you think of a scenario that version would work? That now everything's good if you wear different types of clothes. In fact, the same type of clothes, just a different cut. So men wear baggy shirts and the women wear fitted shirts, or the women wear baggy shirts and the men wear tight ones. Someone who hasn't spoken. My brother.
I think the point is when women wear men's clothes, it makes them equal. Because
When women wear men's clothes,
it makes them equal.
makes them equal.
Which is an abomination in that dispensation.
It's an abomination in that dispensation to be equal.
To be equal, yeah.
My brother.
Well, I may oppose what the brother tried to say, because biblically God has not specified the garment for the man and the garment for the woman. So how can we tell that this was pertaining to the woman and this was pertaining to the man? We have not been given the model of the design of the pants or whatever. We don't know if men used to wear pants.
Okay, so the principle, he says, is if they wear the same clothing, they become equal, and that's an abomination, and he put it in parentheses, in that dispensation. And you said the problem is, in all of this discussion, or perhaps is one, is we don't even know what they're wearing anyway. We don't even know what they're wearing. And the reason we don't know what they're wearing is why? Why don't we know what they're wearing? You said?
Because when God created man and woman, after the fall of man, God made the skins. They're costly.
So I think you said that God doesn't specify what the clothing is. There's only two types of clothing that are specified, I think. What are those two types of clothing? For whom?
Priest.
Priests and who? Not Levites. They're all priests.
Soldiers.
I don't think he specifies. He doesn't say, oh, a soldier has to wear this thing. They work that out by themselves. Who's the other group?
Company, Robert's skin.
How do you know who John is? Two groups? Priests? Prophets. We should know that because that's what we are. We're not yet kings. We're priests and prophets. Wait, what's the definition of a king? Another word for king? Dictator. Nothing to do with our study. Just throwing it in there. So, priests and prophets. Prophets wear a certain type of clothing, don't they? Yeah? That's how you know who he is. Do we agree with that? Yeah? When it says he's a hairy man, it's not just because he's got lots of hairs. It's not just because he looks... In fact, if you've seen the poster that FFA have done, or their followers, for South Africa, have you seen the poster?
Yes.
Yeah? What's wrong with that poster? Sorry? Look at John the Baptist. They're making him out look like some kind of wild ruffian who lives in the desert. He can't take care of himself, doesn't comb his hair. Yeah? Taken straight out from a movie. So I don't know if they watch movies or not. But John the Baptist did not look like that. He was refined and well dressed. Combed his hair. Looked smart. Didn't he? Didn't he? We don't know. We don't know. His dress was what? A rebuke. And you think the scribes and Pharisees dressed smartly? So he says that the rebuke is you need to dress down and be casual and don't comb your hair. I don't think so. It's because we have this crazy idea about this wild Elijah. That's where we pick it up from. It's completely wrong, except at one point, that prophets have a certain type of clothing. So besides that, as my brother has said, there's no specification of what the dress of men and women are to be. Except, someone mentioned about borders. There's no borders that distinguish men and women. I think the only border that the Bible speaks about is the blue border. In closing, anybody has any points? Cause to effect. Sorry? The effect is? What's the cause? Okay, so what you've done is just say, the Bible verse is, if you wear the same clothes, the cause, the effect is abomination. My question behind that is, why is it an abomination? What is so abominable about that thing?
So listening from that, with our first balance we want some clothing, you can see it was the same.
Same clothing at the beginning. Then?
This class was focusing on the defect, abominations.
Tell me what the abomination is. Why is it so abominable if women wear men's clothes?
Abomination is something disgusting. So what was disgusting there?
Something disgusting. Why is it? I want to know why it's disgusting.
If a man and a woman put that same clothes and there is a role distinct from each other, maybe this one is a priest, this one is a priest. If you put those as an abomination.
So we already discussed it's not about priesthood. The priesthood is the tribe of Levi, I think, when this is written. So you can't bring the priesthood into this story.
So in the Bible, the cloth is being identified as the priest and the prophet, as you have said.
So we'll leave that to one side. Now what's the problem with a regular man and a regular woman wearing the same clothes? Why is it an abomination?
Because whatever I'm going to do as a woman of this type of clothes, whatever I portray is an abomination to God.
Yeah, but you keep on giving me these things, but you're not telling me why.
So that dispensation, I could qualify to be someone which, when I put on this type of, maybe this distinction which is here, I will not serve directly to God.
Okay, so I'm going to move on because I don't think you're giving me, you're not even answering my question. Someone who hasn't asked a question. There was someone at the back. Oh, he's leaving now. My brother.
So I was still factoring out according to the examples that we had given. But I see we are considering when it is just from a woman putting on that which belongs to a man. But I was still factoring out in my mind, if it is a man or you who is drowned and you have gone to a sister's place and says, Elder, let me give you my skirt here, that because you are drowned, you may put on for, as we put the rest in the dryer. And then you move out. He decides to take you home, the sister.
I don't mind doing it in private, but I'm not going on the street. No way. What will those men think of me if they see me in the kitchen working there? What would they think? Can't do that, can we? It's no problem with a woman, but if it's a man, would we want the man to go out walking the streets in a skirt?
Like if it works with a woman, because my agreement is, I agreed with that it is fine for a woman to move in a trouser. But I'm saying it works on two sides, both are abominations.
So you okay in a skirt?
I'm saying, are you okay, you?
I'm the teacher. The question. Okay, last one. I'm sorry, we're out of time. Sorry. Okay, my sister. Yeah, you haven't said anything.
Okay, I have a question according to what Moses said. I want to know the reason why the word pattern is being put there. Because
Pattern.
yeah.
Pertaineth.
Yeah. So why is it that it is being said that pertain to man and pertain to woman if they were
Okay, so we'd have to go into. You say pertaineth is only for one, not for the other.
Yeah, pertain is good for a certain group of people.
Yes.
We see men, they have their own, their pertain, and also we see for women. Why is it that it was there before even the woman?
Okay, so for women it says put on, and for the men it says pertaineth. So there's a difference there. So that should alert us there's some differences. We don't have time to answer that, but we need to answer that. Sister Emma, and then Brother Rogers, then we do need to finish. Sorry? Go ahead.
I was going to go on with the brother statement about equality, a similar argument that clothes were associated with job function. It's similar to what you said about priests, but it's not limited to priests. So I'm saying you see that clothes are associated with job function, and they weren't allowed to. It's deeper than just what they're wearing. It's swapping roles.
Role swapping.
I think it's an abomination because the practice of the custom had some connection to the hidden one.
To the heathen world. So it's some connection to the heathen world. We need to stop. I'm way over time. Let's pray. Sorry. Our Heavenly Father, as we approach the subject of Deuteronomy 22 verse 5, we know that there are so many misconceptions, so many ideas that on investigation are not correct, so many theories about what is right and what is wrong that lead us astray. We pray, Father, at this school that you would direct us so that we might be clear on the issue of what this verse means, how we are supposed to relate to it. In Jesus' name.